Hi, Miss Sullivan here. This week is Teacher Appreciation Week, so for our Sully snack, we're going to combine two of my favorite flavors, peanut butter and s'mores, and make peanut butter s'mores bars. Now, before we get started, because the first thing we're going to do is make peanut butter cookie crust. If you don't want to make your peanut butter cookies from scratch, that's totally fine. You can go to the store and just get a tube of peanut butter cookie dough. Or if you're allergic to peanut butter, you can get chocolate chip cookie dough, sugar cookie dough, whatever sounds good to you. So before we actually start baking, you're going to preheat your oven to 350 and you're going to grease a 9 by 13 inch pan. But then we're going to start with 8 tablespoons of butter at room temperature. So make sure it's softened. And a half cup of sugar. A half cup of dark brown sugar. And when I've been thinking about my favorite teachers during this week, a half cup of peanut butter. You can use creamy or chunky. I use creamy. And one of my favorite teachers was my second grade teacher, and her name was Mrs. Tobe. I lived in New Jersey at the time, and I think that second grade was my favorite year for lots of reasons. Mainly because my little sister was born, but Mrs. Tobe loved poetry. And so we read and studied a lot of poetry that year. So that was one of my favorite teachers for sure. Okay, so half cup of sugar, half cup of dark brown sugar, half cup of peanut butter, and 8 tablespoons of butter, unsalted butter. Then we're gonna do a teaspoon of salt. I think another one of my favorite teachers, another teaspoon of vanilla. That's what this big thing is. Another one of my favorite teachers was my 5th grade teacher, Mrs. Walsh, and she was my first teacher when I moved to Iowa. Half a teaspoon of baking soda. And this is 1/4 of a teaspoon, so I have to use 2. I lost my half teaspoon. Okay, so we added a teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of vanilla, and half a teaspoon of baking soda. And I use my hand mixer and blend it all together. If you have a stand mixer, you can do that, or just use yourself. So you just want to blend it until it's all smooth and there aren't any butter clumps left in. So now I'm going to beat in 1 egg. Oh, that was not a clean break, Miss Sullivan. That's all right. I didn't get any shell. Even if I did, these are just for me. And I'm gonna beat in the 1 egg. And then I'm gonna beat in 3 cups of flour. And I'm just gonna add 1 cup at a time, blend it in, add another cup, blend it in, and add the 3rd cup. All right, my cookie dough is all blended, so now I'm gonna spread it across my pan. And if you bought your cookie dough, this is the step you start with. It's kind of like sand, this dough. I'll probably just use my hands, but anyway, what I was saying was, I think another one of my favorite teachers was Mrs. Walsh, my 5th grade teacher. And we just always did really fun stuff in her classroom, and she was always a lot of fun to have as a teacher. Oh yeah, this smells so good. Okay, I'm just making a cookie base for our s'more bars. I bet snickerdoodle dough would be really good in this too. Like cinnamon, that'd be yummy. Ooh. Something else, we're gonna make the marshmallow fluff, and if you don't want to make your marshmallow topping by hand, also fine. Just buy large marshmallows at the store. That would be fine too. Okay. It's a little lumpy because of my fingers, but it looks good. So I'm gonna put this in the oven for about 18 to 20 minutes, and I'm gonna rotate it halfway through its cooking, but you just want it to cook enough so that it just starts to brown, basically. 18 to 20 minutes. While we're waiting for our cookies to cook, I thought of two more of my favorite teachers. Number one, other than my mom, my first favorite teacher is Mrs. Gerlich, my sister. So she's my older sister, so she taught me a lot before I even got to school. And then also Ms. Hansen, she was my teacher in high school, and she was my theater director and my speech teacher, and she's just one of the most genuine people I've ever met. Okay, so the cookies are finished. They look like that. So they're just a little bit brown on the edge. That's perfect. So while they cool, I'm gonna make the ganache filling. And how I'm gonna start that is I have a bowl of semi-sweet chocolate chips, the whole bag, with a couple of pinches of salt and a tablespoon of light corn syrup. And then on my burner, over medium heat, I'm gonna bring a cup of heavy cream to a simmer, not a boil, a simmer. And once that's simmering, I'm gonna pour it over my chocolate chips. I'm gonna let this sit for a minute or two, and then I'm gonna stir it up. Okay, so my ganache is ready. It's shiny and smooth, ready to go. I'm gonna pour it on my peanut butter cookies. This is beautiful. Make sure I get every last drop. And this is gonna sit in the refrigerator while I make the marshmallow. Now, if you are not making your own marshmallow and you bought the big marshmallows, I would still let this sit in the fridge for maybe 15 minutes, just to harden a little bit. And then you would just line your marshmallows up on the pan and then toast them, which we'll get to later. But I'm just gonna spread the ganache all over the cookies and then put them in the fridge. All right, it looks pretty. Okay, this next part is really tricky, which is why I would highly recommend just buying big marshmallows at the store, unless you have help, because it can get really hot and I don't want you to burn yourself. And marshmallows from the store will taste just as delicious. But watch this part for a science experiment. So in this bowl, in your stand mixer, I would have a half cup of water, a teaspoon of vanilla extract, and then 2 tablespoons of unflavored gelatin. So 2 packets of this. And we're gonna leave that there. Now, can I flip the camera? In this pot, I have 3/4 cup of water and 2 cups of sugar and a teaspoon of light corn syrup. So I'm heating that over medium-high heat until it gets to the soft ball stage, or 240 degrees on this thermometer. I will tell you how long that takes me after I do it, so you can kind of gauge, if you don't have a thermometer, how long it might take. But again, this is tricky. So this is the part an adult should do. It took about 15 minutes. So now I'm gonna put this just on low and pour this in very carefully, just to let the steam kind of go away. So I'm gonna mix it on low for about a minute, and then I'm gonna crank it up to like medium high, and I'm gonna whip it until it's bright white and fluffy like marshmallow. So about 5 minutes. Okay, I ended up whipping it for about 10 minutes, and I also switched to a hand whip because I thought I could feel it a little bit better. It's a little bit soft, but it tastes really good. I got a couple of tastes in. So I have my chocolate over my cookies. Now, if you bought marshmallows, layer them on top. I'm gonna pour my marshmallow just so it gets on all over. And I want this marshmallow to set for about an hour before I toast it. So if you are using store-bought marshmallows, you can toast it immediately. So go to the next step. But if you made your own, you're waiting an hour. Okay, my marshmallow is all set. It's a little sticky, obviously, because they're marshmallows, but it's ready to go. So for you to toast your marshmallows, you just turn your oven to broil and then put your pan on the top shelf of your oven and watch it super carefully because it can burn like that. I just got a blowtorch, so I'm gonna use this to brown my marshmallow, but use your oven. It'll work perfectly. There you go. Now you can enjoy your peanut butter s'more bars. My marshmallow is about to drip off, so I need to stop recording and eat it.